Hey Mia, have you ever heard of a guy named Ernest Hemingway?
I think so. Wasn't he some famous author or something?
Yep, that's him. Hemingway was one of the most famous American writers of the 20th century. But here's the thing. His life was just as wild and interesting as the stories he wrote.
Really? What made his life so wild?
Oh, where do I even start? Hemingway was born in 1899 in Oak Park, Illinois. Even as a kid, he was into adventure. His dad taught him how to hunt and fish, which he loved. After high school, instead of going to college, he jumped straight into journalism and worked for the Kansas City Star.
So he was a reporter first? That's pretty cool. Did he cover anything exciting?
Oh, definitely. His time as a reporter really shaped how he wrote later on. Short to the point, no fluff. When World War I broke out, he volunteered as an ambulance driver in Italy, which was super dangerous.
An ambulance driver in a war zone? That sounds intense. Did anything happen to him?
Yeah, he actually got seriously injured while delivering supplies to soldiers. But even with shrapnel in his leg, he managed to carry a wounded soldier to safety. That earned him a medal for bravery from the Italian government. His war experiences really stuck with him and inspired his novel A Farewell to Arms.
Wow, that's some serious bravery. So did he mainly write about war?
War was a big theme for him, but he wrote about a lot more than that. After the war, he moved to Paris and became part of a group of writers and artists called the Lost Generation. Paris in the 1920s was this super creative place, full of energy. Hemingway hung out with other famous writers like F. Scott Fitzgerald and Gertrude Stein. He wrote The Sun Also Rises during this time, which is all about a group of friends who travel from Paris to Spain to watch bullfights.
So he was friends with other famous writers? That's awesome. What else did he do in Paris?
Oh, Paris was a blast for him. He'd write in the mornings, then spend the afternoons boxing, drinking with friends, and exploring the city. He was also really into fishing and hunting, which took him to places like Africa and Cuba later on. He wrote about these experiences too, like his book Death in the Afternoon, which is all about bullfighting.
He really seemed to love adventure. Did he travel a lot?
Oh, for sure. Hemingway was always on the move. He went on safaris in Africa, hunted in the American West, and fished in the Gulf Stream near Cuba. Africa was especially wild. He had some close encounters with animals and even survived 2 plane crashes there. Those crashes inspired stories like the snows of Kilimanjaro.
2 plane crashes? That's crazy. How did he survive?
It's a pretty insane story. In 1954, he and his wife were on a safari when their plane crashed in the African bush. They survived, but then the next day, the plane that was supposed to rescue them also crashed. Hemingway was pretty banged up, but he made it. The media actually reported him dead before he showed up alive and kicking.
That's unbelievable. How did he find time to write with all that going on?
Hemingway was super disciplined about his writing. He'd write every morning no matter where he was and stop when he felt like he'd done his best for the day. That's how he managed to write some of the most famous books of the 20th century. Besides A Farewell to Arms and The Sun Also Rises, he wrote For Whom the Bell Tolls, which is about the Spanish Civil War. It's one of his most powerful books.
Sounds like his real life and his stories were pretty connected.
Absolutely. Hemingway believed in writing about what he knew. His own experiences, whether it was war, love, or adventure, often found their way into his stories. But he also had a softer side, which you can see in The Old Man and the Sea.
That's the one about the fisherman, right? What makes it so special?
The Old Man and the Sea is special because it's simple but deep. It's about an old Cuban fisherman named Santiago who battles a giant marlin. It's not just about the fight, it's about perseverance, pride, and the human spirit. The book won Hemingway the Pulitzer Prize in 1953 and helped him get the Nobel Prize in Literature in 1954.
That sounds like a really powerful story. But you said he had some struggles too?
Yeah, Hemingway had a lot of personal struggles. Even though he seemed tough, he dealt with depression and drank a lot. He also had a bunch of health issues, partly from his war injuries and his rough-and-tumble lifestyle. Unfortunately, in 1961, he took his own life.
That's really sad. It's hard to believe someone who lived such an exciting life could feel that way.
It is sad, Mia. Hemingway's life was full of highs and lows, and it's a reminder that even people who seem to have it all can struggle. But his legacy lives on through his writing, which continues to inspire people all over the world.
I think I'd like to read some of his work. Maybe start with The Old Man and the Sea?
That's a great idea. It's short, but it really shows off Hemingway's style. After you read it, we can chat about what you think it all means.
I'd love that. And maybe we can talk more about his life too?
Absolutely. Hemingway's life and work are both fascinating. There's a lot more to explore, and I think you'll enjoy diving into it.
Thanks, Dad. I'm excited to learn more about him.
You're welcome, Mia. Hemingway's stories show us how life's adventures, good and bad, can be turned into something meaningful. I think you'll get a lot out of his work.